Hi folks, Thomas Henson here with thomashenson.com, and today is another episode of Big Data, Big Questions. And so today's question comes in around what my development environment looks like, and specifically, should you build your own PC and have your own development environment in, on-prem or, just in your own environment using your laptop or, however you want to set it up, or should you just fork over and start, doing everything from a cloud perspective. So I'm going to debate both options and talk about what I do right after this. So today's question comes in from a viewer, and it says, so I'm wondering what the ideal specs for a PC are to be able to do some data work. I'm planning on upgrading my computer later this year, and I was thinking that I should be able to run some stuff that I want to learn. That's great. That's how I started out, learning in my own development environment. So definitely on the right track from that perspective. It says he's doing some research, and some of the specs are a little bit beefy, but then some of the newest stuff that he's seen from like 2018, where there's a couple people saying that, hey, you don't have to do it with a PC, everything can be done in the cloud. Really, what's my thoughts on it? So from my perspective, I think, I've used both, right? So we're going to break it down. I'm going to use the term PC, but whenever I'm saying PC, it can be your MacBook, it can be a Chromebook, it can be, whatever you're choosing to use, but I'm just going to say PC from that perspective. So, and then we're going to talk about cloud. So I've used both of them. Really, if you're looking for a PC, if you're going to do some of the development environment, you want to really have some of the beefiest specs, right? There's a good dividing line, right, between what you can afford and, get some of the highest. RAM's always one of the big ones that you want. For my machine, so I've got a Dell, XPS. I had a T3 before. But, I made sure that I maxed it out. It's a little bit old now. It's about 2 years, maybe a little bit over 2 years old. But I made sure that I've got I think I've got 32 gigs of RAM. I made sure I went and got a large SSD. So I've got, a solid state drive. Then I've also got a traditional spinning disk HDD for just need to be able to have room, right? Like I can pick and choose and decide where I'm going to put certain data, certain workloads, or I still run virtual VMs in my environment to kind of spec things out. So, want to do that from a processing perspective, the more, the better, the more that you can get, obviously, you want to be able to do that, to be able to process your data a lot faster. So, there are some specifications around that. Depending on the data sets and what you're kind of running, you'll run into that. But some of the cool things that have changed a little bit come from the perspective of, hey, if you want to start getting into deep learning, there's all kinds of different compute sticks. I think NVIDIA has one as well, where you can go through and you can do some of the GPU accelerations and not have to really spec it out on your computer. You can spec it out on your computer as well, but it goes back to cost-benefit analysis. So, some of the benefits to doing it from a PC perspective is, you just get to build it yourself, right? So when I was going through with Hortonworks or Cloudera, or even TensorFlow, it was kind of cool to have a fresh machine, or a fresh VM. So I run VMs in my environment just to kind of separate it out. But to be able to do that fresh install versus, you can do that in the cloud, but there are also some really cool stuff to do from the cloud perspective. So the other option, like I just said, the cloud. So I've used AWS and Azure, and actually, if you followed some of my Pluralsight courses, I heavily used Azure in some of the early ones, and then more recently AWS. Really cool to be able to spin up some EC2 instances in AWS, and you can start off almost, it's just kind of like having your own virtual environment if you want to do it from that perspective. So spin up a version of Linux and then start installing, whether you want to get into Docker or Kubernetes, or even TensorFlow, right? Like you can pull out some specific images that already have TensorFlow and some of the other things installed. So you can definitely go different ways for how you want to go. And then you can also use some of the tools there. So I would say that it's not going to be, from your perspective, you're looking to build out your own environment. It's not going to be an either or. It's just how much do I want to spend, from the perspective of my PC or building my own machine, and then how much am I going to use from a cloud perspective too. You got to be careful though too. There's a lot of jokes on there around about your EC2 and your AWS bill or your Azure bill. Like one time I ran up like a $900 Azure bill in 1 month. Thankfully, Microsoft was really nice and helped me out. Maybe I should make another video on that. But you do have to be careful, right? So, saving on cost here, but, making a mistake by not shutting down a machine or not doing the things properly in your cloud can say, hey, can create a build that was 2 times what your PC or what your machine that you were going to build would work too. So I've also done development environments on my MacBook as well. So you know, all of the above. It just depends on what you're kind of trying to tackle, right? And then also goes back to, you know, the technologies that you're trying to target, right? Like if you want, you know, if you're wanting to learn more AWS or more Azure because, you know, maybe it's a career that you're trying to get into, or maybe that's what you use mostly at work and you're trying to, you know, do some things on your own time to learn more, then maybe having a smaller machine where you're using more things in the cloud is going to be what you want versus, hey, you know, if you're in a traditional, don't want to focus as much on the cloud at this point, then maybe building that beefier machine and, you know, doing things in a virtualized environment or with Docker is more up your alley. So like I said, I use both. I kind of get a beefier machine from that perspective, and then use some of the neural sticks or some of the other things to do some of my deep learning, but also incorporate the cloud a good bit as well too, because, you know, might as well, you know, be well-rounded in my education. So until next time, if you have a question, put it in the comment section here below, reach out to me, bigdatabigquestions.com, and I'll do my best to answer it again on Big Data, Big Questions.